welcome back to Forza Horizon 4 with the Ferrari 488 Pista. Brand new to Horizon 4, came out last Thursday, I believe. And I was curious, you see, this is the upgraded version of the 488 GTB, similar to the 458 Speciale to the 458. And that got me thinking, what if I wanted to build my own version of the Pista, a better version? Now, of course, I'm going to be using Forza, and I say better loosely. I'm going to try to mirror its statistics as best as possible. Now, I couldn't call it the Pista, obviously it would get confusing, so I went with the name that everyone was speculating when they first heard of it, the GTO. So I have, instead of the 488 GTB, I have the 488 GTO. Frankly, sounds like a much better name than Pista, but whatever. And I did some basic things. So first I gave it a opposite paint job, so instead of having silver stripes, it's red stripes with silver. Also, I gave it racing tires, just like Forza has on the Pista. I also gave it bigger tires on the rear to match the Pistas. And I gave it a bit better suspension, a bit lighter weight, so it's 3,057 pounds. 5 pounds heavier than the Pista, but it does have 1 more horsepower, 712 of them. That's a lot for both vehicles. However, there would be a wild card. You see, the Ferrari is one of the quintessentials, except for maybe the Lamborghini Miura, supercar, mid-engined, rear-wheel drive V8. And it is a very, very good vehicle, do not get me wrong. However, what about the antithesis of that? The Porsche 911 GT3 RS. First off, it's bright green instead of red. Second off, it is rear-engined instead of mid-engined. It is still rear-wheel drive, but it's a flat 6. So I wanted to see how this, oddball would compare when going against the traditional kingpins of the Ferrari lineup. And the first one was a nice and simple hot lapping challenge. Now, a benchmark was set with the 911, a 47-second dead. And the Pista was pretty darn good, doing a 46.7, 3/10 of a second faster. That blew my mind. That really surprised me, because that thing was freaking fast. Had pretty darn good handling, had very good acceleration, and of course, 700 horsepower, you're gonna go pretty quickly. But the best thing is it actually dealt with that 700 horsepower quite well. I was surprised it didn't get too much wheel spin. I did make the mistake of driving the Porsche first, so I did feel quite a bit of understeer with the Ferraris, although I'm pretty sure that's just the Porsche being so goddamn good handling with its 4-wheel steering and its fancy suspension and its German witchcraft that it makes every other car feel incredibly heavy and slow. So I'm pretty sure that was a mistake on my part, because it shattered the lap record I had right now. That's low-tier hypercar territory that Pista just did. So what about the GTO? What about my GTO? Well, despite being 5 PI higher than the Pista, it can only muster a 47.2, which is 0.2 of a second slower than the 911. Yikes. Now, I should say, as a caveat here, before we move on and say, oh, and huff and puff, the GTO is terrible. Well, the 46.7 for the Pista was a bit of an outlier. I have a little thing of it right here. I was consistently running in for the first 4 laps out of the 5-lap stints I allowed myself. I was consistently running in the 47.2s, which was within 0.2 of a second of the 911 and 0.02 of a second with the GTO. And then the 5th lap was an absolute perfect lap, Ken Miles style, okay? That was the perfect lap. I don't think I could do that better if I tried. So, a little bit of a caveat there, but the fact it could do such an incredible lap is no small feat. The next challenge was a simple one, quarter mile test. And the GTO, well, this is to be expected. It was significantly faster than the Pista, 0.2 of a second faster to be exact in the quarter mile. That's a lot in the standing quarter. Because, well, custom-built cars usually go faster in the quarter mile than road cars. It's just how Forza works in that regard. So no real surprise there, as what I was expecting. The next one, though, was an interesting one. This was the hill climb challenge. Now, the hill climb is very technical. It does have one straightaway at the beginning, but after that straightaway, it is all handling. It is all handling. And the 911 set a very good benchmark of 133 dead, just for your reference. The Pista, as you can see here, is not exactly on a very good run. The Pista is in the top left, the GTO is in the bottom right. And you can see the Pista went off the road once, kind of late brake like an idiot. And despite the fact that it went off the road twice in the course of this run, the Pista did a 131.9, while the GTO could only muster a 133 dead. It was over a second faster up that hill climb. That's insane. On a terrible run. Now granted, the 911 was also a terrible run, but not as bad as the Pistas. That Pista could easily do a 130, maybe even sub 130 with the right driver. That is proper hypercar territory. That's scary fast. I was genuinely amazed by that vehicle. And with the hill climb, the quarter mile, and the lap time out of the way, we had one less challenge. The drift competition. Because here's my logic behind this. When you're drifting, when you buy these cars, I should say, when you buy a Ferrari, 9 times out of 10, you're not buying a Ferrari to go fast. You're buying a Ferrari to show off to your friends like an idiot. Well, there's no better way of showing off to your friends like an idiot than drifting. And I will be honest, trying to drift mid-engine and rear-engine supercars has not been the best idea I have ever had, as you can clearly see with this Pista footage. The Pista, I allowed one run in and one run back because you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And it did not do good, okay? It did get a 53,796 on the drift zone, but, yeah, it was not fun to drift. I'm not a great drifter, but I'm also not terrible. And these are garbage cars. Every single one of these. I hated drifting them. They just could not hold a slide to save their lives. Which, fair enough, these are all track-bred monsters. It's kind of like trying to drift an aerial atom. It's not gonna happen, really. And things only got worse with the GTO. You see, the GTO had a very big string of bad luck. First, on the way to, I was doing moderately okay. It does have, it's an upgraded car, so it has just a Forza makes it have a better chance of drifting, if you will, just the way their physics model works. But I might have overcooked it in that corner and failed the drift zone. So I retried it, and then I came in that corner again and failed it again. And then I said, screw it, I'm not going to give it a second chance, or a third chance in this case. So I went to the end and just started my second run again, as a penalty, if you will. And then as soon as I tried my run back, there was a transit that I crashed into on the line. Yeah, but that was not a good start. So, oh, and then I spun it too. So, not ideal for the GTO. However, again, Forza physics favoring the custom-built cars in this regard, because it did 62,000 points just on, again, a terrible run, helped out by a massive slide towards the end, but it was not very good. However, I should say, I didn't normally show the 911 as a drift vehicle. I did have to show it on this one occasion because, oh, you thought the Ferraris were bad at drifting? No. You have not seen the 911. The 911 is not fun. The 911 is bad. It's like trying to drift a car covered in super glue. It doesn't work. When you unstick it, it immediately re-adheres to the road surface, and then it spins out. Yeah, no, the 911 had a bad time. It was just a terrible vehicle, an embarrassment to drifting as a whole. So, what type of conclusions can we draw from these tests? Well, I think the best conclusion is Forza really helps out on the tuning front with top speed, acceleration, and driftability when it comes to modifying a car versus the stock car, because the PI and the stats are not that different, but in terms of acceleration, top speed, which I didn't test, but I looked at the top speeds, and the driftability, I guess, the Forza custom-built car was a lot nicer than the factory car. Yeah. However, on the handling department, the factory car is miles ahead on the road car. Now, I will say, this is possibly due to me not liking the driving style of the 488 GTB as a stock car, and yes, I upgrade the tires and upgrade the suspension and everything, but it is still a 488 GTB at the end of the day, a car which I have never really gotten along with. I did a lap time testing on my own free time once a while ago, and the 488 was slower around the track than a Celine S7 from 2004, so me and that car just do not necessarily get along that well, which could possibly be a small caveat in that, but even so, the suspension just feels so much nicer in that Pista. It's such a well put together car. I will begrudgingly admit that, because I'm not the biggest modern Ferrari fan, but it's a really good car, that Pista. Which brings me to my final point. The Pista is a track car. And if you want the best all-around vehicle, which can do top speed, acceleration, showing off, and blitz a lap time, it's hard to beat that. But if you are going solely for the track experience, you gotta get yourself a 911. Yes, it lost literally every single challenge today, but if you want the ultimate track car, just get a damn 911 GT3. It's the best one there by miles. It spoils the handling for every other vehicle there. That's not the result I was expecting when I made this video, but that is what we've ended up with. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with more.